What's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be working on building some more parts for our DIY CNC plasma table. Before we get to building, I'm going to walk you through a few things like what we did in part 1 and why we're building this plasma table in the first place. In part 1 of this series, we fabricated the frame for the plasma table, which may look simple, but there's a lot of important factors that go into it that you should definitely be aware of before you attempt a project like this. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you check it out. I will link the playlist that it's in down in the description. And now for why we're building the plasma table. Some of you may already know, but if you don't, this is my 1973 Dodge Charger, and up front here is the 8-liter Viper V10 that we have just dropped into the car. I have a lot of cool plans for this car, including a full tube chassis, a custom steel wide body, and a custom twin turbo kit. All of this work will be done to some pretty high standards, so I'm building this CNC plasma table to help me efficiently create high quality custom parts for every aspect of this build that I'm going to have to design and fabricate. If you guys are interested in following this build, check out our Viper swapped Dodge Charger playlist on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so that you guys can get notified every time we post a new video. In this video, we will be using these laser cut parts to build our gantry and fabricating the water bed that will catch all of the dust and debris from the plasma table. I purchased build plans for this plasma table from a YouTuber called Homemade Madness. I will link his channel down in the description. That is where I got all of the designs for these parts and simply sent them to Send Cut Send to have them laser cut. If you check out the video on the CNC plasma table build from Homemade Madness, you will notice that he claims to have built the whole thing for $750, and I want to let you guys know that if you try to attempt this my way, that is not going to work out for you in that budget. I don't know if it's because my table is a little bit bigger or if it's because of differences in prices from country to country. I suspect that it is a combination of both. This table is going to cost me quite a bit more than $750, but it will still be a lot cheaper than a 5x10 table that you could purchase from any company already built. The $750 quote from Homemade Madness does not include the actual plasma cutter. It just includes the materials to build the actual table. If you guys are interested, drop a comment down below, and at the end of this series, I will include a full build list and price list, including the plasma cutter that I buy for the table. I find it kind of funny that Send Cut Send unknowingly made me parts that will make their services obsolete to me. It's kind of bittersweet. I love Send Cut Send. They do awesome work, and for someone who only needs stuff like this once in a while, it is without a doubt the best option. However, for me, with the amount of volume that I'm doing and the efficiency that I want to have, it makes much more sense to have a plasma table right here and not have to wait for parts in the mail. It will probably also save me some money over time. With that said, let's jump right in to assembling these parts. Unfortunately, I had a technical issue when bending these pieces. The videos came out in the wrong orientation, and I'm not able to get them back to the correct orientation, but not a huge deal. It only took me like 5 minutes. They're very easy to bend, and then they fit right together. I went ahead and did the other one, which is just a mirror image you've got a left and a right, and then your gantry beam will go across the center, and these will weld to that. My next step was going to be to weld that beam in, but it's on back order, so we're gonna go ahead and jump on to building the waterbed, and when our beam comes in, we'll get this part finished up. In case you guys aren't familiar with the function of the waterbed, all it is a pan that sits in the frame and acts as not only the surface that you set the material on to cut off of, but also a reservoir for water or plasma fluid that catches the dust and debris of the plasma cutter as it cuts, and also helps to keep parts cool. It is very important to not create a huge mess all around it as it cuts. It will sit about an inch inside all the way around and will be closer to our actual cut size, but still larger than it. So we can fit a full 4x8 sheet onto the surface of the bed. It will have ribs going across and one down the center, which I will show you guys later, and that will support the material that you lay on the plasma table. So we are going to go ahead. I bought a big sheet of 1/8 inch steel. We have to cut some pieces off of it, turn the ends up, and start turning it into something that can hold water. I've got this 5x10 sheet of 1/8 inch steel. What I'm going to do is use my oxy torch to cut a 3-inch piece off of each short end, and we're going to turn that 90 degrees to this plate. I also have 2 pieces of 3-inch flat stock that will run down these sides. I am going to weld it on the inside edge for a better chance of not leaking any water. If you weld it on the outside, also the water is going to get in between the edge of this piece and this piece, and it's more likely to rot out. If there's not that little seam there for water to get in, it might last a bit longer. I'm going to use this piece of square stock to clamp on here, run along it with the oxy torch, and then once we get the actual box shape made, I will move on to getting our slats and stuff in. I think I'm going to add a drain valve to the bottom of this. I think it'll be super helpful for if I ever want to move this thing or change the fluid, I can just drain it right out. Let's get started on cutting this thing up. So now I've got everything inside, cleaned it up everywhere where we will be welding, and I'm going to clamp our short pieces to our short sides and tack them on. I've got the first side on, and since it's the same simple practice of clamping and tacking the other 3 sides on, I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. We are not going to weld anything on this bed until we get some more braces and stuff in here, because the more support we have on this flat sheet, the less it is going to warp and move. So we will get the outer border of this tacked on, and then I will get back with you guys. Now with our sides tacked on, I will clean up the bottom of the pan, tack in our braces, and then move on to welding this seam all the way around. It'll probably take quite a while, but I made sure that the fit up was super tight so that I don't have to fiddle with it too much, and I can just run real quick, add filler, and shoot all the way down, get it all sealed up, and then also weld our braces, and our pan should be ready to go. And then we can move on to putting together the gantry. And there it is, our center brace tacked in. There's a couple things I want to talk about this brace. The way that I did it is I clamped 3 of these 1/8 inch by 3 flat stock pieces together, and I used the oxyacetylene torch to cut out these notches, and it was time consuming and it was a pain in the ass. I had to do a lot of straightening, a lot of clamping to get this thing back straight, because not only did it curve like this, it went like this, and so I had to clamp it all down and mess with it, get my gaps right so that I could tack it. Wasn't super difficult, but it did take some time. In Homemade Madness's video, what he did is clamped these 3 together and used a concrete saw with a metal cutting blade to cut the notches. He did mention that he would include a DXF file for these along with the other DXF files, but I did not find one in the instructions, just so you're aware of that if you're going to purchase his plans. Now that we have got our brace in, we are going to weld all of our corners on and also down this guy, and then at that point we will put the other braces in that I have laying out in the driveway. Those will go right up against here and up against there. That will give us something for our cross braces, or slats, or whatever you would like to call them, a way to go across and lock in on all sides. Those slats will not get welded in. They will be replaceable. As they are cut on, they will get damaged, and we'll definitely want to be able to replace them. So that's not going to be in this video. Those will just slide right in, super easy. So we're going to go ahead, weld this guy up, and then move on to our gantry. As you can see, we got our beam for it. I also used that to keep this guy straight. Enough said, let's get this thing welded up. We're about halfway through welding the outside, and it's only taken me about 4 hours, which is pretty rough. You may be wondering why I'm TIG welding all of this and not MIG welding it. Well, I sold my MIG welder because I decided that I only wanted to be really good at TIG. I wanted to do high quality work, and MIG in this field isn't the process for that kind of quality work that I want to be doing. So if I only ever have the choice to do TIG, I'll get even better at it, and won't be tempted to just bang something out with MIG when I could make it look a lot nicer by TIGging it. I don't usually do stuff this big. Would have been nice to use a MIG, and it doesn't really have to be super nice. I stand by my principle of getting better at TIG and only having that option. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this very boring montage of me welding straight lines. So I'm gonna finish the other half off camera. I'll get back with you guys when we're installing the water pan into the frame and building the gantry. I want to refer back to what I said about forcing myself to use TIG to get better at it. I have accumulated some evidence of that. Exactly what I meant here, from where I started and where I finished. Over here, although none of this stuff looks really bad, it took quite a long time to do, and by the time I got over here, it looked like this, because I started doing a just lay wire and run over it technique versus trying to dab it in, which took, like I said, 4 hours on this side, maybe an hour on this side. So a huge improvement. That is exactly what I meant. Although the lay wire technique isn't something that I typically use and won't be useful often, when I do need it, I got a lot better at it from this experience. The best way to learn is not to watch my videos or anyone's videos. The best way to learn is to do it yourself. I've always wanted to incorporate some kind of life advice or wisdom for you guys into my videos, and I think this gives me the perfect opportunity. So I've got a little quote by myself that I'm gonna insert here. It's probably been used by other people. I've definitely adopted the mindset from other people, but the words in this order are mine, so here it goes. As imperfect humans whose brains always want to take the easiest path, we must often remove the option of the easy path in order to force ourselves to grow. I think I'm gonna call that weld wisdom. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know if you got a better name for it, and maybe I will start a playlist just of some weld wisdom quotes. But now, let's get back to what we were doing. Our pan is not quite as deep as Homemade Madness's plan, so in order for it to be at the same level compared to the gantry, we're going to have to elevate it above the bottom of the frame. So I'm going to put some brackets on the inside of the frame in each corner, about 3/4 of an inch down from the top edge of the frame. And for that, I'm going to use these cutoffs that I have. They'll sit just like this on the inside of the frame, and then the pan can sit on top of them. That should be a good temporary mounting solution until I can get the gantry built and put on, make sure everything's good, and then add some more brackets. So we've got our little mounting tabs tacked on in each corner. Only reason I'm doing this for now is because I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to mount it. I don't know if there's going to be anything in the way, like the rails for the gantry to ride on and stuff like that. In the next video, we're going to have some of our actual mechanical parts going on, and once I figure out where those go, I'll add some more brackets to this to make it a bit stronger. Right now, I'm going to set this thing in and then start building our gantry. That was quite tough to do alone. I ended up having to use my floor jack to support one corner while I slid it in. Now we can start working on our gantry, and all except for a few final touches will be complete on the fabrication side of building this CNC plasma table. So I just went to test fit our gantry, and it turns out I cut this beam 1/8 inch too short, so it just doesn't fit around the outer frame rails. So I've got this piece of 1/8 inch right here, and I think it should be all right if I just throw that in between here as a shim. That'll give us the length to fit around the frame, and then we should be all good. I'm going to make sure that this isn't an issue down the line. I'm not going to weld this fully until I know that this will work. If it won't work, then I'll get another piece of this beam and cut it 1/8 inch longer than this one, and we'll be all right. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in there, and then we'll test fit it again. As you guys saw, the gantry now fits. It might be a tiny bit too tight, but I'm going to review it as we move on to our next steps in the next video and make sure that it's not an issue. If it is, like I said, I'll redo this beam. As far as this video goes, we are going to call it there. We have 99% of the metal fabrication for the CNC plasma table complete. All that we have left to do is install rails and motors and electronics and test it out. So make sure to look out for the next video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check this one out as well.